There is no requirement in the electrical code mandating that a subpanel must be at least 1/2 the amperage of the main panel. This is a misunderstanding of electrical codes. Subpanel sizing is determined by the calculated load it will serve, not by a fixed ratio to the main panel's amperage. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, guides the safe and proper installation of electrical systems. To determine the appropriate size for a subpanel, one must calculate the total load that the subpanel will supply. This calculation involves adding up the amperage requirements of all the devices, appliances, and lighting fixtures that will be connected to the subpanel. Several factors must be considered during load calculation, including the continuous and non-continuous loads. A continuous load is defined as a load where the maximum current is expected to continue for 3 hours or more. Continuous loads are required to be multiplied by 1.25 or 125% to account for the heat generated by the continuous current flow. This ensures that the conductors and overcurrent protection devices are adequately sized to handle the sustained load. Non-continuous loads are those that are not expected to operate continuously for 3 hours or more. These loads are added to the continuous loads after the continuous loads have been multiplied by 1.25 to determine the total calculated load. After the total calculated load is determined, the subpanel's amperage rating and the feeder conductors supplying the subpanel must be sized accordingly. The amperage rating of the subpanel must be equal to or greater than the total calculated load. The feeder conductors must also have an ampacity equal to or greater than the total calculated load, and they must be protected by an overcurrent protection device such as a circuit breaker or fuse that is also rated equal to or greater than the total calculated load. The size of the feeder conductors is determined by their ampacity, which is the maximum amount of current they can safely carry. The ampacity of a conductor is affected by several factors, including its material, size, insulation type, and installation method. The NEC provides tables that list the ampacities of different conductors based on these factors. One such table is NEC Table 310.15b16, which lists the ampacities of insulated conductors rated up to 600 volts, based on their size and insulation type when installed in a raceway or cable. The table specifies different ampacities for conductors with different temperature ratings, such as 60 degrees Celsius, 75 degrees Celsius, and 90 degrees Celsius. It is important to select conductors with an appropriate temperature rating for the application, as the ampacity of a conductor decreases as its temperature increases. The overcurrent protection device protects the conductors and equipment from overloads and short circuits. The size of the overcurrent protection device must be selected based on the ampacity of the conductors it protects. The NEC provides rules for selecting the appropriate size of overcurrent protection devices. Generally, the overcurrent protection device should be sized no larger than the ampacity of the conductors it protects. However, there are some exceptions to this rule, such as when the ampacity of the conductors does not correspond to a standard size of overcurrent protection device. In such cases, the next largest standard size of overcurrent protection device may be used, provided that it does not exceed the ampacity of the conductors by more than a certain percentage. Voltage drop is another important factor to consider when sizing subpanels and feeder conductors. Voltage drop is the decrease in voltage that occurs along a conductor due to its resistance. Excessive voltage drop can cause equipment to operate inefficiently or not at all. The NEC recommends that the voltage drop in feeder conductors should not exceed 3% at the furthest outlet, and the total voltage drop, including both feeder and branch circuit conductors, should not exceed 5%. To minimize voltage drop, it is important to use conductors of adequate size. The larger the conductor, the lower its resistance and the lower the voltage drop. The length of the conductor also affects voltage drop. The longer the conductor, the greater the voltage drop. Therefore, it is important to keep conductor lengths as short as possible. The NEC provides formulas for calculating voltage drop. These formulas take into account the conductor's resistance, length, and current. By using these formulas, it is possible to determine the appropriate size of conductor to minimize voltage drop. Grounding is another critical aspect of electrical safety. Grounding provides a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source, which allows the overcurrent protection device to trip and energize the circuit. All subpanels must be properly grounded. This is typically accomplished by connecting a grounding electrode conductor from the subpanel to a grounding electrode, such as a ground rod or water pipe. The size of the grounding electrode conductor is determined by the size of the service entrance conductors. The NEC provides tables that specify the minimum size of grounding electrode conductors based on the size of the service entrance conductors. In addition to grounding, bonding is also important. Bonding is the connection of all metal parts of the electrical system together to create a low impedance path for fault current. This includes metal conduits, metal enclosures, and metal equipment. Bonding helps to ensure that all metal parts of the electrical system are at the same potential, which reduces the risk of electric shock. The NEC requires that all metal parts of the electrical system be bonded together. This is typically accomplished by using bonding jumpers, which are short lengths of conductor that connect the metal parts together. The size of the bonding jumpers is determined by the size of the circuit conductors. The NEC provides tables that specify the minimum size of bonding jumpers based on the size of the circuit conductors. In summary, subpanel sizing is based on the calculated load, conductor ampacity, overcurrent protection, voltage drop, and proper grounding and bonding techniques according to the National Electrical Code. It's important to refer to the latest edition of the NEC and consult with a qualified electrician for specific guidance on electrical installations. It is critical to calculate the load, determine conductor sizes based on ampacity and temperature ratings, select appropriate overcurrent protection, and ensure proper grounding and bonding for safe and compliant installations. The misconception about the 1/2 rule likely stems from a misunderstanding of load calculations and diversity factors. Diversity factors allow for reductions in the total calculated load based on the likelihood that not all connected loads will operate simultaneously at their maximum demand. For example, in a residential dwelling, it is unlikely that all appliances, lighting, and receptacles will be used at the same time. Therefore, the NEC allows for a demand factor to be applied to the total connected load. Demand factors are typically expressed as a percentage of the total connected load. For example, a demand factor of 0.75 means that only 75% of the total connected load is used for calculating the service or feeder size. The use of demand factors can significantly reduce the required size of the service entrance conductors and overcurrent protection device. However, it is important to apply demand factors carefully and only when appropriate. The NEC provides guidance on the application of demand factors for different types of loads. The demand factors depend on the types of occupancy and anticipated usage. For example, the demand factors for a dwelling unit are different from the demand factors for a commercial building. The NEC provides tables that list the demand factors for different types of occupancies and loads. It is important to consult these tables to determine the appropriate demand factors to use. The load calculation process involves several steps. Firstly, determine all loads connected to the subpanel. Secondly, categorize loads as continuous or non-continuous. Thirdly, apply demand factors where applicable. Fourthly, calculate the total load. Lastly, size the subpanel, feeder conductors, and overcurrent protection based on the total calculated load. A balanced load distribution is essential for efficient and safe operation of electrical systems. An unbalanced load occurs when the current flow in each leg of a multi-wire branch circuit or three-phase system is not equal. This can lead to several problems, including overheating of conductors, voltage drop, and use and stripping of overcurrent protection devices. To minimize load imbalance, it is important to distribute the loads evenly across all phases of the electrical system. This means connecting approximately the same amount of load to each phase. For example, in a three-phase system, the load should be distributed as evenly as possible among the three phases. The NEC provides guidance on load balancing. The NEC requires that the neutral conductor of a multi-wire branch circuit be sized to carry the maximum unbalanced load. The maximum unbalanced load is the maximum difference in current between any two ungrounded conductors of the circuit. The NEC also requires that the neutral conductor of a three-phase Y-connected system be sized to carry the maximum unbalanced load. However, there are some exceptions to this rule. For example, the neutral conductor of a three-phase Y-connected system may be sized smaller than the maximum unbalanced load if certain conditions are met. These conditions include the presence of harmonic currents and the use of an overcurrent protection device that is specifically designed to protect the neutral conductor. The installation of a subpanel requires careful attention to detail and adherence to all applicable codes and standards. It is important to use only approved materials and equipment. All electrical work should be performed by qualified personnel. Before beginning any electrical work, it is important to disconnect the power to the circuit being worked on. This can be accomplished by turning off the circuit breaker or removing the fuse that supplies power to the circuit. It is also important to verify that the power is off by using a voltage tester. A voltage tester is a device that is used to detect the presence of voltage. It is important to use a voltage tester that is rated for the voltage of the circuit being tested. After the power has been disconnected and verified to be off, the electrical work can begin. It is important to follow all applicable codes and standards when performing electrical work. The NEC provides detailed instructions on how to install electrical equipment and wiring. It is important to consult the NEC and follow its instructions carefully. After the electrical work has been completed, it is important to inspect the work to ensure that it has been performed correctly. This includes checking all connections to ensure that they are tight and secure. It also includes checking all wiring to ensure that it is properly installed and protected. After the inspection has been completed, the power can be turned back on. It is important to test the circuit to ensure that it is working properly. This can be accomplished by using a multimeter or other testing device. A multimeter is a device that is used to measure voltage, current, and resistance. It is important to use a multimeter that is rated for the voltage and current of the circuit being tested. It is always advisable to consult with a licensed electrical contractor. They can assess the existing electrical system, calculate the load requirements, and ensure that the subpanel installation meets all applicable codes and standards. Incorrectly sized or installed subpanels can pose significant safety hazards, including electrical shock, fire, and equipment damage. Proper planning, accurate load calculations, and adherence to the NEC are essential for a safe and reliable electrical installation. Therefore, it's important to reiterate, there is no code requirement for a subpanel to be half the size of the main panel. Size the subpanel to meet the demand.